Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make this super cute no-sew mini whale. This is going to be a updated version of my tutorial I came up with a long time ago at the start of our channel, and I changed a couple of things to make this super cute whale. So if you want to learn how to make this guy, keep on watching, and we're going to start out with the materials you're going to need to make it. Starting out with yarn, we're going to use two colors of Bernat blanket yarn. You can use Bernat blanket or baby blanket, both work, or any weight 6 super bulky yarn will also work for this. And I am going to use this blue and then this white, but you can also add a little bit of pink if you want to add some blush at the end. I'm actually not going to be doing that in this tutorial, but if you would like to add some blush to make it super cute under the eyes, you totally can do that as well. And with this yarn, I like to use a 8mm crochet hook, but if you want to make a smaller whale, you can also use a 6mm. Next up, I have a stitch marker and a tapestry needle, and then I'm going to be using two 16mm safety eyes and some scissors, and then I'll also be using some polyfill stuffing. So now that we have all of our materials, let's get into how to make the whale. And we're going to start out with the tail, and we're going to make two of them. And you do want to start out by making the tail and not go right into the body, because we will be crocheting the tail into the body. One thing I do like to say at the beginning of all my tutorials is that this pattern is going to be beginner friendly, but it also is not intended to teach you how to crochet. So if you have never crocheted before, this is going to be pretty difficult, and I would recommend having some of that basic knowledge before going into this tutorial. But with that being said, I'm going to start out by making a magic ring. You could also do a chain 2 if that is easier for you guys, but I am going to do a magic ring. Now that I have my magic ring, I'm going to start round 1, which is going to be 6 single crochets into the magic ring. So to do a single crochet, we go into the magic ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through both of the loops on our hook. So we're going to do that a total of 6 times for 6 single crochets in round 1. I'm now going to just turn the project around, and I'm going to tighten up my magic ring and secure it with a few knots. And now we're ready to start round 2. So for round 2, we are going to start by putting 1 single crochet into that very first stitch from round 1. And then I'm going to add my stitch marker, and now we are going to be placing 2 single crochets into the very next stitch. So go into that first stitch, make 1 single crochet, and then when you're done that, we're going to go into that very same stitch and make 1 more single crochet, and that is an increase stitch, and that is also what we're going to be repeating all the way around. So we are going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then in the 4th stitch, 2 single crochets for an increase. And we will do this pattern a total of 3 times for 9 single crochets in round 2. Okay, I'm now ready to move on to round 3. So for round 3, it's pretty easy. We're just going to be doing 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So that will be a total of 9 single crochets in round 3. Alright, we are now on to the final round of the first part of the tail. So for round 4, we are going to be doing 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and then in the next 2 stitches, we will be putting a decrease. So to do that, we are going to go into the front loop of the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then we are going to go into the front loop of the very next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, Now that we have 3 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those, and that is our decrease. So we're going to repeat that a total of 3 times, 1 single crochet followed by a decrease, for a total of 6 stitches in round 4. Okay, and once we are all finished with round 4, we are going to add a little bit of stuffing to our first tail part. And once it's all nice and stuffed, the last thing we're going to do is we are going to fold our work in half like this. And then we are going to place 3 single crochets going across in both the front and the back stitches. So go into that very first stitch in the front, and then also go into the stitch across on the back, and then just do a single crochet through all of those stitches. And then repeat that 2 more times going across for a total of 3 single crochets going across the top of our tail. Now that we're done that, we just want to tie off and leave a short tail just for hiding into the project. Then we'll just cut the yarn. And we are going to make 1 more of these the exact same way so that we have 2 of them to put onto our whale. So if you need to, you can go back to the beginning of the tutorial and watch it 1 more time to make 1 more of these, and then meet me back to start out crocheting the whale's body. Okay, so I just made both of my whale tail parts, and now we're going to move on to the head. So for the head, we're going to start out by making a magic ring just like we did for the tails, but you can also do a chain 2 if you would prefer. And now we are going to be putting 6 single crochets into this magic ring for round 1 of our whale body. And I'm just going to tighten up the magic ring and secure it with some knots. And now we can move on to round 2. So for round 2, I'm just going to start by putting 1 single crochet into that very first stitch, adding my stitch marker, and I am actually going to be putting 1 more stitch into that very same one we just worked into, because we are going to be doing increases for round 2. So go ahead and put 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around, a total of 6 times for 12 single crochets in round 2. Okay, I just finished round 2, so I'm now going to be doing round 3. And to start out, just doing 1 single crochet into that first stitch. And for this round, we will be doing 1 single crochet followed by an increase. And that is what we will be repeating all the way around for round 3. So 1 single crochet and then an increase in the next stitch 6 times for a total of 18 stitches in round 3. I just finished up round 3, so we're going to move on to round 4, which is our last round of increases. So for this round, we will be doing 1 single crochet in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then an increase into the third stitch. And we will repeat 2 single crochets followed by an increase all the way around 6 times for a total of 24 stitches at the end of round 4. Okay, I just completed round 4, so we're now going to move on to round 5, and we will actually be doing the exact same thing for rounds 5, 6, and 7. So for these next 3 rounds, we will just be putting 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So that will leave us with a total of 24 stitches in all of those rounds. So you can go ahead now and do 3 rounds of just 1 single crochet all the way around. And once you have completed that, I will meet you back for round 8. Okay, so I just finished my 3 rounds of just one single crochet round. So we are on to round 8. And for round 8, you're gonna need your little tail pieces. So just grab those and have them ready. And we'll also be making the fins, or like the arms of the whale, in this round. So we are going to start with one of our tail parts, and we are going to crochet it in by inserting our hook into the first single crochet we made right at the top there, and then we will also be working into the first stitch of the round and just putting one single crochet but pulling through that tail part as well. We will be repeating that 2 more times, just going through the second stitch of both the tail and the round. And then one more time into the third stitch. And on this third stitch, I just like to tuck in this tail end here by just putting it over here, completing the single. But I also will be tying the 2 ends together once I have the second tail on. So I'm just going to insert my stitch marker into the first stitch we made, and we now have one of our tail parts attached, and we will be doing the other one at the end. So moving on, we're just going to be putting one single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2, and then in this next stitch we will be putting a bobble stitch, but I personally like to do treble crochet bobbles for these because I like them to be a little bit bigger than a traditional bobble would be. So to do this, we are going to yarn over twice, insert our hook into that very first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 again, and that is our first treble. So we're going to repeat that 3 more times for a total of 4 of these trebles and 5 total loops on our hook. So I'm just yarning over twice, going into that same stitch, pulling up a loop, and then pulling through 2 twice, and there's my next treble. So now we'll do 2 more. And I now have 5 loops on my hook, so I'm now going to yarn over and pull through all 5 of those loops. And there is our treble crochet bobble. So now we're just going to go into the very next stitch with 1 single crochet, and just make sure you're pulling everything nice and tight here so there's no holes or anything. And we are just going to continue by doing 11 more single crochets across, so we'll have a total of 12 single crochets, and we're just moving over to the other side so we can make another bobble. I've now completed my 12 single crochets across, so I'm going to now make another treble crochet bobble, the exact same that I did the first time in that very next stitch. And once I've completed all 4 of the trebles and I have 5 loops on the hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through all of those loops. And then we will be doing just 2 single crochets, 1 in the next 2 stitches. And in these last 3 stitches of the round, we are going to be attaching our tail again. So just start out by inserting your hook into that first stitch we made on the tail and the next stitch of the body, and just pulling through all of that and then making a single and repeating that 2 more times across. And I'm just pulling this end through again. And then I'm going to tie the ends of the tail together. And now we can move on to round 9. And for round 9, we are going to be color changing to white. There's lots of different ways that you can color change, but today I'm just going to show you what method I like to use. So I have the blue loop on my hook, and I'm just going to take the white yarn and just kind of loop it onto the hook like this and pull it through. Then I'm just going to take this blue yarn and pull it nice and tight to hide that blue loop. And then I am going to cut off this blue, and I'll now tie these two ends together. Now that we've attached our white yarn, we're going to start out with round 9. So for round 9, we are just going to be putting 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So we will end the round with 24 stitches and just work into every stitch normally, like even the treble bobble here, you just go into both loops of the stitch like normal, and just make sure you have 24 at the end of the round. And then we will work on finishing this guy up. I now completed my 9th round, so we're going to go ahead and add the eyes now before we go any further. We want to put the eyes between rounds 7 and 8 around 6 stitches apart. So that's just where I like to put them. You can put them up one higher, especially if you want to do blush, just so that the blush isn't sitting on the white part, but personally this is where I like to place them. So we're going to count down to rounds 7 and 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm just going to put the first eye in, and then I will move it if I need to, but we're going to go 6 stitches over to place the next eye. And just keep adjusting them until you're happy with the placement and everything. So it's around 6 or 7 in between that I like to put them, and once you're happy with the placement, just add on the backs. And now that we have added our eyes, we are going to start out with round 10 of our project, and we are going to be starting our decreases in this round. So the pattern is going to be 2 single crochets and then a decrease, but we're not really going to be doing invisible decreases for this round because we are only going to be working in the back loop only for every single stitch. Instead of going through both loops of the single crochet, we will only be working into the back loop. So start by inserting your hook into that back loop and just put 1 single crochet, and then do 1 more single crochet into the next stitch, and then a decrease, but again we're just working in the back loops only. And then continue working in the back loops only all the way around, doing 2 single crochets followed by a decrease, a total of 6 times for 18 stitches in round 10. Okay, I just finished my back loop only round, and now I'm going to move on to round 11, and for round 11 we're just going to be working into both loops like normal, except for when we do our decreases. In that case we'll be doing front loop only decreases to make them invisible. But for round 11 we are going to be doing 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and then in the next stitch we'll be doing our decrease, so working into the front loops of those next 2 stitches. And that is what we will be repeating all the way around for round 11. We will be doing that a total of 6 times, and it will leave us with 12 stitches at the end of the round. And before we move on to the final round of our project, we're just going to add a little bit of stuffing, and you want to stuff it as fully as possible. There'll still be maybe a little bit of room to stuff at the very end if you need to, but just stuff it all the way now. Alright, I've now fully stuffed my whale, so I'm going to move on to the final round, which is going to be just a decrease in every stitch all the way around 6 times for a total of 6 stitches left at the end of round 12. Alright, and I just finished round 12, so I'm now going to tie off and cut the yarn. And I'm just going to leave a bit of a tail just for closing up the whale. So to do that, I'm going to add the yarn onto my tapestry needle, and I'm just going to work through the front loops of every stitch from round 12. And I'm just going to pull the needle all the way through that, and then once I've done that through every stitch, I will just pull it nice and tight to close up the project. So once I've done that, I just like to go into a nearby stitch and just add a couple of knots to make it nice and secure. And then the last step is just inserting your needle right where you were tying those knots and pushing it through the project and then pulling it through nice and tight, and either hiding this into the project or just cutting the extra off. And now we have our finished whale all complete. So this is what it looks like. I think it's so cute and I absolutely love this pattern. I love that it's no sew and it's so quick and easy to make for markets. Let me know if you guys tried out this pattern and if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to like the video if you liked it and subscribe to see more videos like this one. I have a whole bunch of tutorials here on the channel, and I also have a whole series of 10 weeks of market tutorials that I make and sell at markets. There will also be a written pattern out for this tutorial, so if you prefer written patterns, you can go check that out on my Etsy, and I also have a whole bunch of other written patterns on there if you're interested, and you can use code YouTube for 20% off those. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.